about to give them what they want.
Go Beastmode, dude.
I don't think they're ready for this, though. Beast mode, beast mode, beast mode, beast mode, beast mode, beast mode, beast mode.
What's good, YouTube? You know who it is. Chris Jones, representing Pump Chasers. You already know. You already know. Go to TigerFitness.com and get your Pump Chaser subs. You know we got that GAF Whey Peach Cobbler, just got restocked, back on the streets, and wait, there's more. You know we got that Intra Pump BCAs with electrolytes. We got that Pump and Grind pre-workout, all right? Cuts FTS. Guys, fuck with the best. Come on down, hurry on down to TigerFitness.com. And you already know, Beastmode316.com, get your Ho Ready Legend tee. Fun fact, once these are all sold out, I might not be restocking. Now, I do plan on restocking About That Life hoodies, but these most likely won't be coming back. And if they do, won't be for a while, okay? So fuck with your boy if you're interested. So, let's get to today's video. So lately, I've been watching a lot of fitness related content, you know, on social media like Instagram and on YouTube. And I've been hearing this shit repeated numerous times by numerous influencers. It's almost like they're reading from the same fitness content creator handbook. And pretty much what they're saying is exercise like front raises for your front delts are worthless and not needed. They're saying this exercise is not needed. Like I said, they're reading from the same handbook. They're saying this exercise is not needed because apparently you get enough anterior delt work from your pressing movements, like your overhead presses, your bench presses, like your flat bench, your decline bench, your incline bench, your dips, etc. You get enough front delt work from your pressing movements. And guys, I'm making this video because I feel this is not a good message to put out to the fitness community. Scratch that. Not the fitness community, the bodybuilding community. Although we both lift weights, although we both care about how we look, the fitness community and the bodybuilding community are not the same community. Yes, we're very similar, but we're not the same community. This is not a good message to put out to the bodybuilding enthusiasts. Just like we have philosophy. I love philosophy, by the way. You know, Machiavelli, Rene Descartes, Plato, etc., Socrates. I can name on and on and on. Marcus Aurelius. I love philosophy, by the way. But we also have training philosophy. And fun fact, I've said this many times, bodybuilding is a discipline. Not only is it a discipline, it's an art. Not only is it an art, but it's backed by all universal laws and principles. So with that said, in the bodybuilding community, and I'm pretty sure you can already think of some off the top of your head, we're gonna have false teachers and false prophets just like every other world. And you're gonna have good teachers just like every other world. You have good teachers in the religious world, the sports world, the science world, the real estate world. Every world is gonna have false teachers and good teachers. And you're also gonna have masters of deception. Motherfuckers using fake weights. Motherfuckers selling you supplements that got drugs in them. Y'all know about those motherfuckers who just went to the feds recently for putting drugs in their supplements? Real estate world got masters of deception. Leasing these fancy cars to attract you, to sell you some bullshit courses. Guys, all universal laws apply to the arts. Just like Leonardo da Vinci said, study the arts. Now, I'm not trying to say people I disagree with when it comes to bodybuilding philosophy. I'm not saying they're false teachers or nothing like that. The point I'm trying to make is this. We shouldn't idolize people. I know if you heard the term many times, idol worship. That shit is very true. Don't idolize people. It's okay to learn from people, look up to people, Admire people's work, but don't idolize nobody. Because when you idolize people, you might make the crucial mistake of taking everything they say as law. One of my favorite quotes by Jesus Christ, one of my favorite quotes is, "The eye is the lamp of the body." Yes, we have two eyes to see the physical world, but we also have a mind's eye. That's a spiritual eye. We also have a mind's eye. And we must keep that eye as bright as possible. You do not want to dim your light. The eye is a lamp of the body. And one thing I like about the English language is there's so many messages hidden and encoded right into the language, as they say, words or spells, which is why they call it spelling. I have a saying that goes like this: that idol don't have no fucking idol. That idol can make your eye dull. Don't let that shit go over your head. I'm gonna say it again. That idol can dim your light and make your eye dull. The easiest way for one of these idols to dim your mind's eye is taking everything they say as law. You might buy into some bullshit. You might fuck around and let their opinion become your truth. The truth is literally another form of light. Remember, energy cannot be created nor destroyed. The truth is literally a form of light. And if you fuck around and listen to these idols and take everything they say as truth, you might accidentally dim your own light. Which is why I'm a firm believer. I stand firmly on this. Get as many points of view as possible and think for yourself. You only get one mind, you get one body, and you're responsible for both. Get as many points of views, many perspectives as possible, and think for your damn self. So with that said, before we talk about this front raise topic a little bit, if there's any trainers out there, I'm talking influencers. I was gonna say names in this video, but we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna do that today. I'm gonna chill on that today. Just stick to the topic at hand. I was gonna post some clips of people that said this shit and call them out and ask them, do they want to debate? But if any bodybuilding based influencers see this video and you strongly disagree, I'm not saying disagree. We're gonna all disagree about something. I don't care if you disagree. If you strongly disagree, I'm free for a debate. Let's do it live. Let's do a live debate. No editing, no nothing. Just post the video live, debating on why we think front raises is worthless. I'll explain why I think they're necessary and why I like them, and you can explain why they're worthless, and let the people decide. You feel me? If there's anybody out there in the bodybuilding influencer community that want to debate, hit me up. Let's do this shit. So anyway, fam, I'm gonna try not to make this video too long, but I gotta explain where I'm coming from, okay? That way you can feel what I'm saying, all right? So let me explain to you why I feel front raises are a good movement. One thing we gotta understand is this. When it comes to the shoulders, the deltoids, I know a lot of people talk about the side delt a lot because when you stand to the front, you know, side delts is gonna give you that wide appearance. But remember, we're three-dimensional. We're in a three-dimensional world, and at the end of the day, if you want that round shoulder look, all three heads are equally important. There is no head that's more important than the other. All three heads, all three are equally important. The rear, the side, and the front. No head is more important than the other. If you got some big ass front delts and your side and rear ain't shit, guess what? You got weak delts. They're not gonna say you got weak side and rear delts. You got weak delts. They're a group, like an R&B group. They are a team, like a basketball team, football team. They are a group. They are all equally important. And when you get lean enough, when you diet down and get lean enough, you'll be able to see the crispy, detailed lines. You know that pumpkin effect. That pumpkin effect, when you flex and you move your arm and you got them lines. I'm talking when you get lean enough to see it. You must have development of all three heads if you want that effect. Especially if you want those deep creases. One thing I've noticed is a lot of people that have been saying that front raises aren't a good movement are roid users, with all due respect. One thing we gotta realize, in the trap and deltoid area, there are a lot of androgen receptors in that area. Which is why when we play the whole who's natty or not game, what's the first thing we look at? We typically look at their skin, right? Because skin is the largest organ on the body. We look at their skin. And of course, we look at the trap and deltoid area. So I found it really funny that a lot of people that are saying front raises aren't really that great are steroid users. I mean, you got a cheat code. And then a lot of people that are natural with good delts, let's just be real here. A lot of lifters, myself included, we're gonna have strong points that grow relatively easy compared to other body parts. I know guys with great fucking calves barely even touch their calves. I'm talking great calves. I'm talking about those kind of calves that split the hose's legs in halves. You understand? For me, it was my lats. For whatever reason, my lats were growing faster than my other body parts. For some people, they got really good peaked, really good full biceps, and they just started training. I mean, we're gonna all have genetic strong points and weak points, you know? But as trainers, influencers, whatever you wanna call us, we gotta understand, you gotta give advice that can work for the mass majority of people. You gotta give advice that can work for everybody, which is why when it comes down to dieting, we always say calorie deficit. That's advice that can work for any and everybody. And one thing we gotta understand when it comes to training, we have compound movements and we have isolation movements for a reason. That is a fact. Let's get one thing understood. With all due respect, of course, I don't give a fuck about the fitness community. I don't give a fuck about the CrossFit community. I don't give a fuck about the calisthenics community. I only give a fuck about the bodybuilding community. That is my discipline of choice. That is the discipline I've studied and given a good chunk of my life to. That is what I'm passionate about. So when I'm speaking, I'm not giving general fitness advice here. I'm giving advice to the bodybuilding enthusiast. See, people that work out to look good and people that work out for bodybuilding purposes, yes, we're doing the same thing, but our goals are different. A bodybuilder, for the most part, is trying to turn their physique into a walking work of art. My goal is when I'm lean to look like a fucking walking statue. Anything less than that is unacceptable. I'm not doing this shit so I can be fit for the... No! I'm not doing this shit so I can see my abs, so I can have a little tone. I'm doing this shit to have my physique looking like a work of art. When I'm cut down and I'm trimmed down, I want to look like a statue. Every area of my physique developed. Every tricep head developed. Biceps heads developed. Everything proportionate. Everything detailed. From the top to bottom. Bodybuilding goals. So keep that in mind when I'm talking about these front raisers here. I'm not talking to the guy who just wants to be fucking fit. I'm talking to bodybuilding enthusiasts. Even though I'm not a competitive bodybuilder, I want to look good enough to where I could compete if I wanted to. Naturally, of course. There's levels to this shit. You got the natural bodybuilders and then you got the enhanced. For the most part, we're still the same. We still have very similar goals. We go about it differently, but we have very similar goals. For the most part, we both train hard. We have to diet. We have compound movements and isolation movements. I'm talking to the bodybuilding community. I don't care if you're enhanced or natural. If you're into bodybuilding, you're my fucking brother. Period. I'm talking to the bodybuilding community here. If you're into bodybuilding, if you're a bodybuilding enthusiast, you my fucking iron brother. period. I'm talking to the bodybuilding community. So with that said, again, we have compound movements and we have isolation movements for a reason. So for an example, I'm just throwing this number out here for example purposes. If you've been working out, let's just say 3 years, you notice everything is swelling up and thickening up. Your legs are getting thicker, right? Get some size. Your shirts are starting to hug. Your sleeves are hugging the arms, right? Everything's growing, chest growing, everything. Weights going up on the scale, but you're noticing the front delts are lagging. You notice when you do that most muscular pose, you don't have that meaty front delt popping. And you've been working out 3 years. Everything else seems to be growing but that front delt. What are you gonna do? You're gonna add more weight to the bar on your presses, do more dips, do more bench. What are you gonna do? This is a clear sign that it's time to hit them directly. Math is the universal language, which means numbers matter. Numbers are crucial. Do not ignore the numbers. You have X amount of time has passed. You clearly have seen in the mirror how your body is responding to the things you've been doing. If you're not happy with the results you're getting, it's time to change some things around. It's time to make some adjustments. And again, we have compound movements and we have isolation movements for a reason. Everything literally works the same due to the universal law, not state law, not government law, universal law of vibration and correspondence. Everything works the same due to these laws. So with that said, let me give you an example. If you're in a war type situation, right? You got your pistol, you got your assault rifle, and you got your sniper rifle with the scope. And you want to hit a target that's several yards away. I'm talking maybe 3 football fields distance. What are you gonna use? You use your pistol, right? You're gonna make noise, alert him, he's gonna take off. Assault rifle, you might be able to get him, but again, make noise, he might take off. The best situation would be sniper with the scope. But to use that sniper rifle with the scope, you gotta have high level skill set. Not only high level skill set, you gotta have a high level of focus. Control breathing, balancing the weapon, you name it, because you're only gonna get that one shot. High level skill, and that's exactly how bodybuilding works. Some exercises, you're gonna be able to just go with the motions and push it around. But then you're gonna have some exercises where you're gonna have to have a high level of focus, high level of skill. Not only to just hit the muscle properly, but to keep yourself from getting injured. I would tell my clients this all the time, and I'm sharing it with you, giving you one of my secrets. Walking down a sidewalk, right, requires you to have focus. You don't wanna trip over your feet, right? Or trip over some shit on the ground, or God forbid, fall into the busy street and get ran over by a car. Walking on a sidewalk requires some level of focus, some degree of focus. But think about walking on a tightrope. You're like 6 stories in the sky, 6 stories high. You're walking on a tightrope. No safety net below you. Think about the level of focus you gotta have now. Night and day difference. Yes, you're walking. Both actions are walking, but mentally, internally, it's 2 completely different levels of focus. Walking on a sidewalk and walking on a tightrope. 2 complete, even though you're still walking, 2 completely different levels of focus. And that's exactly how it is with the art of bodybuilding. When it comes to squatting and stuff like that, your patterns are good, you know, you should be okay. But doing something like a leg extension, and you want to get deep, making the sweetest love, you got to tap into that tightrope level focus. You got to tap into that sniper level focus. There's levels to this shit. See, there's limits to how big you can get, but there is no limit to how deep of a mind-muscle connection you can get. People overlook that shit. And this shit is literally backed by science. Bodybuilders have been saying this shit for years, decades, about the mind-muscle connection. This shit is backed by science. Look at this little clip here from Jeff Nipper. Check this out.
Each week adding weight when possible. And after the 8 weeks, they measured hypertrophy of the biceps and the quads, and they found that there was significantly more biceps hypertrophy in the internal focus, or the mind-muscle connection group.
Now, I put the link to some studies below. But long story short, guys, 2 groups of people were curling dumbbells, right? The group that had internal focus, notice deep mind-muscle connection, versus the group that had external focus. External focus is literally kind of just looking in the mirror, making sure you're doing this shit right. The group that had the internal focus, putting their mind into the muscle, got the better results. Again, mind-muscle connection is literally backed by science. And it should be no surprise. Because everything is energy. Everything is energy, and energy is everything. And remember, waves also carry energy. Remember, the brain has neurons. Neurons vibrate and create what? Brain waves. Literally, you have energy flowing within you. As they say, where your focus goes, your energy flows. That ain't just some fucking fortune cookie talk. That shit is literally backed by science. Where your focus goes, your energy flows. When you literally focus on the muscle you're working, guess what? Your energy is flowing into the muscle that's working. Which is why mind-muscle connection is gonna help you produce more results. And you know what's funny? I already knew this shit years ago. Arnold told me this.
The biggest mistake is that you go to the gym and you go through the motion, but you don't really have your mind inside the muscle. I've seen the guys training with me also 4 hours a day, 5 hours a day, but they look like shit. And why did they look like shit is because they didn't concentrate.
Arnold's a fucking goat. Hold on 1 second. Bam! Arnold's a fucking goat. I have a saying, I've been saying this shit for a while. Take notes from the goats. Arnold has been saying this shit for years. Serge Nubret, t-shirt at beastmode316.com, have been talking about the mind-muscle connection for years. Take notes from the goats. And guys like Serge Nubret and Arnold, guess what? They were saying this shit before the science came out. So what does that tell you? Remember, bodybuilding is backed by all universal laws and principles. These are messengers. They were already saying this shit long before these studies came out. So back to the topic at hand. If you notice your front delta lagging, and you've already been pressing for years, that's a telltale sign. It's time to put more focus into that area and isolate it. How can I do that? How can I put more focus into the area and isolate it? Oh shit, we have isolation movements. And guess what? When you do an exercise like the front raise, when you raise your arm into that flex position, you don't just throw your arms up. That shoulder is a motherfucker. It's multi-directional and multifunctional. So it can open up the door to injure yourself if you're not careful. That's why you gotta have that sniper focus. You gotta have that tightrope walking focus. When you're doing it, put your mind, sometimes try closing your eyes when you're doing it. Raise your arm. You can feel the shoulder rotating. Remember, the shoulder rotates. Rotate into that flex position, slight pause, back down. And you're gonna feel those front delts screaming. Over time, you're gonna notice them deep creases. You're gonna notice more hump into that front delt because you're putting in the work and you're putting in the focus. This is not my opinion now. This is backed by science. Don't shoot the messenger now. it's been proven, focus improves gains. Not only do you have the GOATs telling you this shit, you got the shit backed by science. Let's get back to the original argument. They would say front delts are already worked from pressing. Okay? Think about it. When I'm doing a bench press, I can't speak for you guys, but when I'm benching, I'm typically focused on my chest. My mental focus is on my chest when I'm pressing. Especially when I'm doing incline dumbbells, I'm mentally focused on my upper chest. A little bit of elbow too, because you gotta drive the elbows 45 degrees, come up and squeeze at the top. A little bit of both. I'm focusing a little bit of my elbow drive and my chest. I'm not focused on my front delts. How many of you guys are focused on your front delts when you're pressing? You know, when I'm doing my dips, I'm typically focused on my chest. And I'm focused on my shoulder blades to kind of help keep me stable. So again, if you've been pressing for years, right? You've been doing your shoulder presses, you've been doing your bench pressing, you've been doing your dips or whatever, and the front delts are still lagging, it's time to isolate them a little bit. It's time to put a little bit of that mind power and focus on the area. And it's also funny too, how they say the front delts get enough work when you're pressing. Last time I checked, when you do a pressing motion, the elbow extends. If the elbow extends, that means the tricep is getting worked. Shit, people are still doing their tricep work, right? I see people do their chest workout and they'll still do the tricep press downs. They'll still do their French presses or skull crushers because they understand the importance of mentally focus on an area and isolating the area with isolation movements. Also, when you're doing wide rows, you're abducting at the shoulder, that's hitting rear delt. People still hitting them rear delts directly. When you're doing wide rows and you're doing wide pull downs, guess what? The elbow is being flexed. The elbow flex as you're pulling down and rowing. That hits the biceps a bit. Last time I checked, people still hit their biceps directly. So how come when it comes to front delts, people want to be lazy? That shit is weird to me. Again, I'm not saying you have to do front raises. If you clearly have good front delt development without doing them, fine, just keep doing what you're doing. But if X amount of time, remember math universal language, if X amount of time has passed, you're noticing everything else is developing and reacting to your training stimulus, then guess what? It's time to make adjustments so the areas that are lagging in development can grow as well. That's all I'm saying. Front raises are a great movement and they're not overrated. Every exercise is a tool in the toolbox, period. So anyway, guys, that's the end of this video. And again, if there's any like bodybuilding influencers that feel like front raises are overrated and all this type of shit, I would love a live debate. That would be fun. It's been a while since I've had a good back and forth with somebody. You feel me? So if anybody want to debate some training philosophy with me, I'm all for it. But that's my stance. Front raises are a good movement. Do you have to do them? No. But if your front delts are lagging and you want that pumpkin effect, I highly recommend throwing them in your training. Don't forget to like my shit, comment, and subscribe, and holler back at your fucking boy, and buy 30 of them bitches. Peace.
of silence before we fuck up these weights.